Hello, I'm Hilda Fernandez, and welcome to MB Currents, where we talk about topics of interest to you, our residents. In this special edition, we have as our guests Commissioner Jerry Libbin and City Manager Jorge Gonzalez talking about two topics near and dear to all of our hearts. One of them, litter, and another topic of much interest to many of our residents, and that's the concept of a condo ombudsman. Commissioners, talk a little bit about litter first, because it's certainly a topic that you have been very much personally involved in since very early on in your career here.
Thanks, Hilda. You know, when I ran first for office in 2005, I felt this was one of the key issues that I needed to address, because our beaches are clearly the most precious asset that we have, and so many people coming to the city of Miami Beach, 15 million a year visitors to the city. The number one reason why people say that they come to our city, 66% in fact, it's for the beaches, followed closely by Art Deco at 62%, but that's how important it is when you translate the dollars that people spend on vacation, per diem expenses, times 15 million. I've been told that it translates, according to the Greater Miami Convention and Visitor Bureau, to $17 billion. That would be $6.8 billion that you'd attribute just for those that say, hey, the beach is the number one reason for coming. So to make sure that you have a great beach, one of the top 10 in the world, is critically important to our success.
What have we done in the last few years, and I know you've been involved in some of those efforts, to try to improve the cleanliness of our beaches?
Well, you know, it's a challenge because the beach is so heavily used by these people, and that's what it's here for. But we want people to respect the beach, and the surf riders and Ecom and a number of other commissioners and myself, we sponsor these beach cleanups, which, you know, in and of itself, the next morning you go out, there's always going to be more trash, but it's an awareness. And what we've really tried to do out of my office is to have a continual drumbeat of awareness of how important it is. And you know, a couple of years ago, I created a campaign, No Litter, No Butts, and as a result of that, we then went on to sponsor a poster contest, which you were very helpful with, and the winning design is now displayed out on the beach on a number of different stations, and actually the county thought it was so great that they put that same poster on their trucks. And in fact, the county now is adopting that concept as it goes out to the parks throughout the entire Dade County. So, you know, the kinds of things like that help inspire the public to take ownership of this, our most precious asset. Another thing we did was created an Adopt the Beach program. I'm very proud. I think we have now, 40 groups or so who've adopted a section of the beach. And for those of you that are watching, that's still available. You can adopt a section of the beach, have a little placard out there, and you'll get recognition with your group, whether it's a Cub Scout group or whatever it may be. You go out a few times a year and clean that section of the beach and help the environment. And
if everybody goes out a couple of times, then obviously you get a lot of traction going there.
All right.
Commissioner, I know there's also been a lot of desire to ensure that the city's codes and ordinances support the concept of enforcing cleanliness, or at least encouraging cleanliness. Obviously, we don't want to use the hammer. We prefer not using the hammer. But there are hammers in the event that someone doesn't want to participate. What kind of efforts have we engaged in that regard?
Well, one of the things that I did about 2 years ago is helped create with the city attorney an ordinance to strengthen our litter ordinances and to ratchet up the fines on that. We also not only litter but graffiti. You know, we wanted to make sure that our public property was taken care of, and we tried to make the children or those that would mark buildings or public property be more responsible and actually give them an opportunity to go out and scrub that graffiti off.
And if they don't?
If they don't, then the parent can pay a fine.
Now, Mr. Manager, our strategic plan, the city's strategic plans, talks about clean and safe. Why are those always talked about together?
Well, it's the basics of why we exist as a community and an organization, is to provide for a clean and safe environment, be they in our residential neighborhoods or our commercial neighborhoods or our beaches. And sadly, sometimes they don't come out as clean. We've got a cleanliness index that we try to measure and empirically define how clean we are. But then, as the Commissioner has instituted a number of programs, including enhanced code compliance, particularly on our beaches. It's something that sadly our folks take for granted and sometimes don't respect as much as they should. And those efforts really are intended to make the beach available to everybody. Whether you're a visitor or a resident, you should have a clean beach and you should have a safe beach. And that's something that we work on every single day.
You mentioned cigarette butts.
Yeah, the cigarette butts is a bugaboo that, you know, is just they're so difficult to get off the beach once they're there, and they don't decompose for, I've been told, as many as 15 years. So something I'm really proud of and thank the administration for getting done is I was very interested in creating a smoke-free zone on the beach, and we now, with the new contract that has just been put in place with the Boucher Brothers Management Company, are requiring them to put ashtrays out on our beaches to allow people to smoke, which is fine, and hopefully encourage them to use those ashtrays instead of throwing their cigarette butts in the sand. I think it's going to be a tremendous win for us.
As the Commissioner said, it's about awareness and about making sure that we have the right communication efforts out there.
And obviously it's starting now with the public beachfront concession, the public beaches next to our public beachfronts, and next, hopefully we'll
Parks.
see the same, moving on to other areas. Well, we're going to have to move on next to our next segment. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about a new concept, a Condo Ombudsman. What's that? We'll find out in just a minute.
Hi, Miami Beach. This is Brian Toll, creator of Tempest, and you are watching MBTV.
Where can you escape from the ordinary while being entertained and inspired? It's all happening at Miami Beach Soundscape. The city's hip urban space by day transforms into a music and motion masterpiece by night. The city's weekly cinema series takes place on the EXO stage at Soundscape. Find a spot on the lawn and enjoy all the action for free. Find weekly movie listings at mbculture.com. Soundscape, an escape from the ordinary.
Hi, I'm Emily Oz, and you're watching MBTV.
Welcome back to MB Currents. I'm Hilda Fernandez. With me today for the special edition, Commissioner Jerry Libbin and City Manager Jorge Gonzalez. Condo Ombudsman. Lots of folks don't know what an ombudsman is in general, so what's a condo ombudsman in particular?
Well, let's take ombudsman. I would say that a good definition is a facilitator. So a condominium ombudsman would be someone who would facilitate on behalf and assist owners of condominiums or management firms of condominiums, law firms that represent the condominium units, in dealing with departments in the city of Miami Beach as they interface with their
Why do you
building.
think that's important right now?
Well, I have to tell you that having been on the commission now over 6 years, one of the things that I know my fellow commissioners and I hear most frequently of any department is the frustration in dealing with issues that emanate from inspections. And those could be from building or code or fire, which are the three areas that the condo ombudsman would deal with. Because unfortunately, we have, I think, a lack of an accountability system. It's not a direct shot at anybody, but what happens is on an inspection, one inspector will go out, and then on re-inspection, it's a different officer, whether it's building, code, or fire. And frequently, the stories that we get back are, well, this person told me to do something this way, and the next person told me to do it differently, and it's very frustrating for people. So you can imagine the frustration that a developer has to deal with. I don't want our residents to have to deal with that, and our good folks that live in condominiums make up more than 50% of the residents in Miami Beach, over 40,000 condominiums in our city. That I felt, if we could make it easier for them to comply with the law, because many times they need to get permits, they may not even be aware, they're changing out their kitchen counters or putting in new plumbing in a condominium, and they need to get permits. They don't know where to start. They don't know who to relate with. And when you go down to the third floor in City Hall, it's a bit of a task to kind of find your way through the different permit counters. So I believe that this will help, interestingly enough, not only condominium owners and their management firms, but it will really shorten the lines for residents in single-family homes, for developers, because if everyone dealing with condominiums is in a separate line, then obviously all the other lines become that much shorter as well. So it really helps everybody.
And it sounds like the ombudsman also plays a role of educating the condominiums as well, because they may think, oh, this is unnecessary, but in fact might be necessary.
It's a great point, Hilda, because, again, having sat there for over 6 years, oftentimes I find out that the staff is correct, and you know, maybe it's not translated properly, but there are issues that can be misconstrued, and it's helpful, in my opinion. The ombudsman will deal with as an interface between the resident and the city in those three departments and help take them through the different steps, educating them. And another very important thing that I put in this is that this ombudsman, whomever he or she is, would answer directly to the city manager. And that is an important component for me. And the reason I wrote it that way was because I want to make sure that we have accountability. And I feel that if the position has a direct report to the manager, that person will have significant standing when he or she goes to a staff person in code or building and says, well, why are you doing this? Or why, you know, because that person knows the ombudsman reports directly to the manager. And I further have asked that quarterly reports would be given in writing from the manager to the city commission so that we would all know about what they're doing, and if there are problems or retraining that's needed, you know, we'd be able to identify that and get people, you know, trained up.
Now, obviously, there's been other efforts to, as the economy changed and the real estate market changed, having such an incredible abundance of condominiums in our city, we, you know, had our fair share of issues. I know that there were attempts to do some condo workshops and other opportunities with the state condo ombudsman, the state one, to try to educate our residents in our condominiums. What do we typically see as being some of the issues that some of these condominiums have faced during this tough economic period?
Well, Hilda, as Jerry said, the great majority of our residents do live in condominiums, and they have, each one of them have their own set of bylaws which govern how they operate. And issues as simple as collecting the condo maintenance fee from a foreclosed property, who should pay for that and how should that be distributed, to more significant issues of who's going to be allowed to put an assessment on a property to do an improvement, particularly a major improvement of the condo.
We've seen changes in legislation as a result, and we were very much
Commissioner
involved.
Libbin has been very involved in pushing a lot more legislation at the level and at the state level in Tallahassee to give more rights to the condominium owners.
You know, that was a very interesting 2 years, I would say, that I spent, and it was a result of a resident who lived in North Beach who asked me very simply, can you help us with this condo foreclosure issue? I had no idea what she was talking about. When I learned about the state statute, and it had nothing to do with the city of Miami Beach, we had no authority, but I learned how unfair it was and how the banks refuse to foreclose because it's not in their financial best interest to take over ownership.
Quickly, yeah.
So, you know, I got into that, and believe it or not, I collected 350,000 signatures statewide and helped Ellen Bogdanoff and others who were pushing state legislation to strengthen the state law, which we did, and we actually put off to the future some other things that would be required to, otherwise would have been required to be implemented already, that saved thousands and thousands of dollars for condominium associations.
So very soon we may have our very own condo ombudsman here.
So.
Keep a lookout for that. Listen to, look at MBTV, check out the website, and hopefully in the next couple of months we'll see if we have someone here advocating on behalf of the rights and helping educate our condo dwellers here in the city. For you, thank you very much for joining us for this edition of MB. Thank you.
Hey, we're Miami Beach Soccer, and you're watching MBTV. Yeah!